Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Walkthrough Radio Show. Kevin Walker, Jason Collins, right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. And if you're checking us out on YouTube at the Walkthrough Radio Show, we appreciate that as well. We got some good stuff to get into today, some NBA, some NFL. We're going to do our all-time NFL starting lineup, all 11. So that's going to be fun. But K-Walk, what's going on, man? How you doing today?
All is well, man. All is well. Looking forward to another great one, Jay. Beautiful weather here in New York. So hopefully we have a beautiful show as well, brother.
Yeah, man, it definitely should be a good one. We got some good topics to get into. I don't want to spend too much time on this guy because he's been all over the news, man. But Let's start with Kyrie Irving. Obviously, I think Wednesday is the deadline where he's going to have to decide what he wants to do. Is he going to sign? Is he going to opt out? Like all the different scenarios that are happening with Kyrie right now. What do you think, K-Walk? What's your gut feeling telling you? What is Kyrie Irving going to do by Wednesday?
Great question, Jay, man. I think he's going to wow, this is a tough one. I really think he's going to opt in, man. I think he's going to opt in. I think he and KD are going to sit down, talk about this and it's called it, like, unfinished business, if you will, get Ben Simmons in the mix as well and go for another run, man. So I definitely think I'll definitely think, but my gut is telling me that he'll opt in for sure. Because I just think they just have unfinished business, man. I mean, when Ben Simmons not being a part of that team last year, Harden leaving halfway through the season, Kyrie only playing half the season. I think if they're all in, I think that they have a legitimate chance to win a championship. And I think that's what they're going to sit around and talk about, Jay. And I think so with all that being said, I think he'll opt in.
Yeah, man. When you put it that way, when you talk about all three of those guys, and if they're actually all in, that's a good three pieces to start with, right? You're hard pressed to find three better guys, but the key word you said, all in. Like, are you going to get? I think we can count on KD as long as he's healthy, but those other two guys, who knows, right? So let me flip it, K-Walk. If you're in that Brooklyn Nets front office, do you want what are you hoping Kyrie does? Because for as talented as he is on the court, he brings so many other headaches off the court. Yeah. Do you think there's a chance that they're quietly hoping that they can move this guy, or do you think they want Kyrie back in the building?
I would hope they would want him, Jay. I would think that he would want him. If I'm the GM there, I'm saying, I want you to opt in, because I think, everything I just said, just unfinished business. We haven't put this thing together yet. Let's see how it looks before we make a draft decision as far as opting out. Let's see how this thing that we put together, let it come together before we make any draft decisions. So I would hope that he opts in, and then take it from there, see how it happens, see what happens from there. If it doesn't come to fruition, then you can expect him to leave, or not opt. I mean, go elsewhere, but at least get something for him. I know it's going to be hard, but I would hope they would opt in and just let this thing play out and see if they really can, if it can really play out.
Yeah, man, I like the idea of the unfinished business narrative, right? Because there was so much hype around Brooklyn when those guys got together, and it just flat out has not panned out for a lot of different reasons. COVID, injuries, like whatever you want to say, it just hasn't worked out. So the idea around getting together under, hey, we got unfinished business, that sounds really good, and that could be something that could work for Brooklyn. But let's say it goes the other way, K-Walk. Let's say Kyrie decides, look, they can't work it out. Brooklyn doesn't want to extend him. He wants out the door. Where do you think could be one or two places where he could most likely end up?
Well, I'm hearing a lot of noise about the Knicks, man. The Knicks is, a landing spot for him. I think, he'll probably, if he does opt out, or he'll opt in and then request a sign and trade, of course. There's a lot of noise about right here in New York, Jay, that he's going to be a Knick. He wants to be a Knick. The Knicks want him. Is right across, is right across the bridge, if you will, one borough over, if you will. So I would think that, that would be the case. I would like to see him with the Knicks. as much as I dislike the Knicks here in New York, Jay. But I think that's a good fit for him. I don't know if he can live up to, I don't know if he wants to stay in the New York market, though, but I think it's a good fit nonetheless. Also, maybe, maybe Philly. Philly may be another a good spot for him. I don't know what they can give up for them. I know they have Tyrese Maxey there. They're looking forward to, possibly extending him because he looks very
Right.
promising. We talked about the Lakers. We talked about there's a lot of noise around the Lakers. Will the Lakers bring him back? Will he want to team up again with LeBron? That's also an option. That's also on his quote unquote wish list. So teams. The Heat, I don't see too much. I don't see the Heat really touching him. I'm just going to naming the teams that he put on his wish list, and also I think the Mavs may be an interesting fit there, Jay. With Luka Doncic and those guys. So that may be an interesting fit as well. But to answer your question, I say the Knicks.
Yeah, the Mavs would be interesting because you're adding a very talented player, but Luka is so ball dominant. I wonder how they would figure that out, because both of those guys want the ball in their hands at all times. All right, K-Walk, final question on Kyrie. So in October, when the NBA season is ready to tip off, let's talk about Kyrie, KD, and Ben Simmons. Do you think all three of them will be in Brooklyn? Two of them will be in Brooklyn? One of them will be in Brooklyn? If you could look into your crystal ball when the NBA season tips off, how do you think those three guys play out in terms of on the Brooklyn Nets roster?
Yeah, so I can say consistent with my answers, Jay. I'm going to go back to what you asked me about my gut. And my gut tells me he was going to opt in. It's going to be an unfinished business there. That's the theme of the season going forward. So I'm going to say the Nets for sure.
Yeah, man, I actually hope you're right. I like Brooklyn. Was a KD fan. He kind of cooled on that a little bit. But I think by the time the season rolls around, if all three of those guys are back in Brooklyn, that's something that I would like to see. I want to see what they can do on the floor. We know about all the drama off the floor. I want to see what those three guys can do if they're all actually on the floor together. So I think that'll make for an exciting NBA season. All right, man, good stuff. Okay, well, let's jump over to the NFL, man, because we have done top 5 quarterbacks, top 5 receivers, top 5. We've done top 5 everything. But now we're going to put together our all-time NFL starting lineup, 1 through 11, which is tough, man, because there's been so many great players throughout NFL history. But let's do this. Let's start with the big uglies, man. Let's start with the offensive line. Let's show those guys some love. Give me your starting NFL offensive line all time, and then we'll kind of go back and forth from there.
All right, man. I'm gonna start from left tackle over to right tackle. So Jay, this was a tough one. It was definitely fun, man. When you presented to me, I said, "Oh, I gotta go to the linemen, man. I really don't pay attention to those guys unless they're on my team, and they're giving up sacks. That's the only time that you really pay attention to them." But to start it off with, Jay, I'm going to go with Anthony Munoz, the left tackle, great Hall of Famer from the Cincinnati Bengals. So I'm going to go with him at the left tackle. I'm going to left guard. I'm going to go with Bruce Matthews. It seemed like he played forever for the Houston Oilers at that time. So I'm going to go with Bruce Matthews at the left guard position. At center, I'm going to go to old school guy, Mike Webster, the center from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Was part of that dynasty that they had with Terry Bradshaw and them winning all those Super Bowls that they won, in the 70s, 80s as well. At the right guard, I'm going to give your Cowboys some love, man. I'm going to give your Cowboys some love, and I'm going to go with Larry Allen, guard there from for the Cowboys. I mean, he was just a monster. I mean, I could have taken anyone from that particular offensive line that they had to go in that run, but I went with Larry Allen on this one. And at right tackle to finish off the line, I went with the great Jackie Slater from the Rams there, man. So again, I got Munoz at left tackle, but Matthews at left guard, Webster at center, Larry Allen at right guard, and to round it out, Jackie Slater at the right tackle.
That's a great front. And I was wondering how much overlap we would have, right? Because there's so many people to choose from.
Right.
But 3 out of our 5 are the same. So I had Anthony Munoz as well at left tackle because, I mean, people will argue that he's the best offensive lineman, period, to ever do it. So
Yes.
Munoz was easy for me. I threw Randall McDaniel in at my guard on that side, 12-time Pro Bowler with the Minnesota Vikings. So he was my guard. I agree with you. I had Mike Webster at center, 16 years with the Steelers, 8 straight Pro Bowls. I mean, he was just absolutely phenomenal. And then again, Larry Allen on the other side, just like you as my guard. Larry Allen's ridiculous, man. I think he's known for being like the strongest man in the NFL, just the way that he could move people. And then I went with Jonathan Ogden, man. I saw Slater on there, but Jonathan Ogden, 11 straight Pro Bowls. He was going to anchor my other tackle spot. So those are my front 5, man. All right, let's go, K-Walk. Let's go to the tight ends and receivers. I had a hard time with this, man. You would think it wouldn't be that hard, but especially looking at some of those great tight ends. But give me your tight end and receivers, K-Walk. Where'd you go on this one?
Yeah, I went with Tony Gonzalez, the big man out of from Atlanta. Played with the majority of his career with Atlanta. Finished his career with KC. I went with Tony Gonzalez there, man. I saw there are so many tight ends out there, Jay, and I just thought that this was a basketball player playing tight end. It was really hard to defend him, so I went with Tony Gonzalez. I went with a 3 receiver set here, Jay. I went with a 3 receiver set and then 1 running back set. It just seems like that's the natural offense. Like you don't see too many fullbacks around nowadays. So I went with today's offense. So with that being said, I'm going to go my man Jerry Lee Rice at the outside. I'm gonna put him at the Z receiver there. I'm going to go with my man T.O. Terrell Owens at the X. He got some speed, so he can get down the field. And I needed a slot guy, Jay. I needed a slot guy, someone who can who can work those those slot defenders or safeties, whoever you put on there. And I got all 3 of these guys on my top 10 list. So I went with Isaac Bruce here, man. Isaac Bruce is definitely a speed guy, can work the middle of the field better than I've seen in a lot of people. That's why I have him in my top 10. Now, this is where it got hard for me, Jay. This is where it got hard for me as far as the running back goes, man. I was going back and forth. And I texted you yesterday when I was doing, I said, oh my God, I'm going back and forth. So with that being said, I finally got down to 2. So I'm gonna go with Marshall Faulk here, man.
Okay.
He was him and Barry Sanders were on my list, but I'm thinking about the team that I would like to put together, or offense that I would like to put together. And I always want to have a running back that's going to be able to catch the ball out of the backfield as well. And I don't think anyone did it better than Marshall Faulk in the history of the game. So I went with running back Marshall Faulk. And to lead this team, Jay, this was another tough one. To lead this team, I wanted a quarterback who could move a little bit, has a strong arm, very accurate. And I think this guy fits the mold of all the quarterbacks that I have on my list. So I went with Aaron Rodgers.
Oh man, K-Walk. Okay. That's good stuff. Because you're right. Like, you don't want to just pick necessarily like who everyone thinks the all-time greatest is at each position. Right. You're trying to put a team together that actually works and can actually play on the field. So I love those picks, man. I promise I wasn't looking at your notes for the tight end, but I went with Tony Gonzalez too, man. But I was kind of deciding between him, Shannon Sharp. I was looking at Kellen Winslow Sr. as well, but when it boiled down to it, I went with Tony Gonzalez as well. And like you, I went with the 3 receiver set too. No shade to those great fullbacks that are out there, but you guys are a dying breed in today's NFL. So I went with 3 receivers as well. So just like you, I went with Jerry Rice. I mean, you got to have Jerry Rice on your list. And then I put opposite him, I went Randy Moss on the other side, because I got Moss that's going to go deep. I got Rice that's going to run all the slants, some of the intermediate stuff. I like those 2 guys together. Now in the slot, I put Larry Fitzgerald. People don't think of him as a typical slot guy, but I like him as a possession receiver. So I threw Larry Fitzgerald in there as my slot guy. Now running backs, I looked at it. over and over again, but I just couldn't get away from Barry Sanders, man. I could not get away from Barry,
tough,
especially running behind that offensive line. Like
right.
one-on-one, you don't have a chance with Barry one-on-one.
Right.
So I stuck with Barry Sanders as my running back. And then to lead the team, like you, K-Walk, I didn't want somebody that was going to be stuck in the mud. I needed somebody that was going to be able to move a little bit, somebody that had a nice arm, was a great leader. I went with Joe Montana, man. I went with Joe Montana, who's
I'm mad at that.
Largely known as the best quarterback to do it until Brady surpassed him. So I went with Montana as my quarterback, man. What do you think, K-Walk?
No, I love it, Jay. I love it. You can't go wrong with that Randy Moss pick. I mean, it's just someone like, you need an X receiver that can get down the field. And that's Randy Moss fits that position to a T, man. I mean, I can't be mad at that. And like you stated, the Z receiver is more of a slant guy, intermediate guy. But the Larry Fitzgerald one, that kind of like, as a slot, I was like, well, wow. But you put him in the right position. He can run those slant routes as well. And he could also be another big guy that you can, run some slants with Randy Moss and then come off of with some out routes there. So yeah, I love the pick. Barry, like I stated earlier, he was my, I was flip-flopping, coin flipping, whatever you want to call it. So I'm not mad at that. As far as Joe Montana, my 49er fans are probably going to hate me for that, but love the pick though. Love the pick. Love the choice.
Now, K-Walk, and not to put you on the spot, so if you don't have a guy, don't worry about it. But if you were going to do that substitution package, is there a fullback you have in mind? If you were going to go to a heavier package, old school I formation, is there a fullback that you have in mind that you would play?
Jay, I know you so well, man, and I was prepared for this question. I know you so well, brother. So yes, I most certainly do. I knew it was coming. I'm going to go with John Riggins, the Washington, formerly known as Washington Redskins. He was a guy who's known as a running back, but he was more of a fullback type guy. To me, he can really run you over, and he can give you those blocks as well. Lead blocking, one-on-one with Marshall Faulk and behind this offensive line. Yeah, I definitely gonna go John Riggins here.
Yeah, that's a great pick. And I cheated a little bit on this one because I don't even know if this guy is a fullback. But when I looked it up, they had Jim Brown listed as a fullback. Oh, yeah. I always thought he was more of a running back, but I checked and double checked and it kept saying fullback. I said, okay, fullback, if I can have Jim Brown and Barry in the same backfield, forget about it. So I'm going to go Jim Brown as my fullback if he really was an official fullback. All right, man. Great stuff there, K-Walk. That was fun, man. Let's grab a quick break, K-Walk. When we come back, people have been discussing this all the time, like which sport has the best athletes? Which sport is this? Which sport is that? We're going to break it down a little bit. We're going to talk about which sport you think has the toughest individuals, which sport requires the most skill, and which sport requires the most intelligence. So we're going to do that when we come back. You're listening to The Walkthrough with Kevin Walker and Jason Collins right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Welcome back. You're listening to The Walkthrough with Kevin Walker and Jason Collins right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. All right, K-Walk, there's always a lot of debate about which sport is this, which sport is that, who's better, who has the better athletes, all that kind of stuff. I don't know that we'll ever really solve it, but we're going to try and talk about it here today. So let's start with toughness, K-Walk. Yeah. When you look at all the different sports out there, and they're all tough in their own way. But if you had to pick one, K-Walk, which sport do you think requires the most toughness to play?
Yeah, Jay, it might be easy for us to say the NFL, but the NFL is not so tough anymore, man, because with all the rules and everything, like, right now. So I'm going to, believe it or not, I'm going to eliminate the NFL right now. And I'm going to turn it. I'm going to give some love to hockey, man. I think hockey, you got to be tough out there, man. I think, you're allowed to fight out there. You're allowed to put people in the boards, get hit in the head with the stick. I mean, you're losing teeth. I mean, just constantly. I mean, this is constantly banging. So I'm going to say toughness. I'm going to give it the nod to the NHL. I know my football fans are probably going to be like, what are you talking about? But yeah, it's just the way the game is played now in the NFL. I don't think you really have to be as tough as you used to be, like when you and I played. So definitely a different ball game. So I'm going to give it to hockey.
Man, K-Walk, that's a great argument because I was going back and forth between the two. And I was kind of leaning still towards football because I was thinking, every single play, especially in the trenches, those guys
Yeah.
are still banging every single play. And you do see some tremendous impact in hockey. But
Yeah.
I was thinking you don't see it as consistently as you do in football. But then you're right, man. It's just not as physical as it used to be. There's a lot of stuff that they've outlawed in terms of where you can hit players, how you can hit
Right.
players, what parts of your body you can use. Oh man, I think I'm gonna get on board with you here. I think I'm gonna go hockey as well, K-Walk, just because of all the rule changes and the softening of
Right.
football over the last decade. I think I'm gonna agree with you, man. I'm gonna go hockey as well because I
Yeah.
I don't watch a lot of hockey, but just this week, I think I've
Right.
seen two guys lose teeth during
See?
during the Stanley Cup, man. So I think I'm gonna go with you, man, and go hockey. All right, what about skill, K-Walk? Now, this one is a little bit tougher because
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
got your baseball people, you got
Yeah.
your golfers. I think basketball requires a heck of
Yeah.
a lot of skill. Even football, like it's not hard to cover a man, like catch a
Right.
football with people hanging on you. So there's a
Right.
lot of different ways you can go with skill, but if you had to narrow it down to one, where would you go, K-Walk? Which sport requires the most skill?
Wow, I'm gonna give the love to the NBA on this. I'm gonna give the nod to the NBA on this one. I just think that the way that they're able to to dribble the ball, get past people, contort their bodies in certain situations. When we talked about Kyrie Irving, I think he's one of the best to do it. And then LeBron is one of the best to do it too. Just everything that they have to do, the speed that they have to play with while dribbling a ball, going behind their back, things of that nature, making some of the great passes. So yeah, the more I think about it, Jay, I'm going to give the nod to the NBA.
Yeah, that's a great one, man, because everybody in the world like plays basketball, whether you're at your
Right.
local
Yeah.
gym, at the park, whatever. But the difference between like the average guy playing basketball
Yeah.
and NBA basketball players is just so vastly different that most people
Yeah.
don't even understand how good those guys
Right.
actually really are. So I definitely can't argue with the NBA. I think I'm going to go in a different direction here, man. Like some people
Mhm.
say hitting a baseball is the
Yeah.
hardest skill, like hitting 100-mile-an-hour pitch. I never really played baseball except just for fun. So I can't even speak to that. But certainly someone throwing a ball at you 100 miles an hour seems pretty difficult to do.
Right.
But I think I'm going to go golf here, man, just because
Okay.
kind of like basketball, everyone plays golf, but the guys that actually do it on a professional level are just so much better than your average guy that's actually doing it.
Hmm.
And then the frustration that you hear guys talk about when it's like you against the course, you against yourself. I'm going to go
Right.
golf here, but I'm
Okay.
not even sure that's the right answer, K-Walk. But I
That's
feel
right.
like you got to, if you're going to be really good at golf, you're going to have to be tremendously, tremendously skilled. All right. Last one, intelligence. Okay, well, this is kind of a tricky one, man. But hey, which sport do you think requires the most intelligence to actually play?
Yeah, I don't want to disrespect any other sport than the one that I'm going to choose. And I'm going to say baseball, Jay. For some of the things that you mentioned, it's hard to hit a round ball with a round bat. The ball's coming at you, at 100 miles an hour, sometimes even faster, and you only have a short distance to make your decision and to make that happen. And not only that, Jay, it's just like it's a game within the game. Sometimes you have to, you make shifts. You have to know where you're going to go with the ball. If there's men on base, You have to put certain guys in certain situations. You have to bring another guy in. It's all strategizing, man. And I think that no one does it better than the Major League Baseball players. So I'm going to give the nod to the Major League Baseball players, and nothing to take away from any other sports. I don't want to say you're not intelligent enough to play baseball. I'm just saying this for the sake of the question. I'm going to go with Major League Baseball.
Yeah, man. And you always say, like, if you understood baseball, Jay, you would like it more. If you understood the strategy, if you understood the little things that were happening, which I don't. Like, I'm a very casual baseball watcher, so I definitely cannot argue that point at all. I'm going to go football here, K-Walk, because I think when most people watch football, they think it's just a bunch of guys out there running into each other. We know that is definitely not the case. Like, if you ever pick up a college playbook or an NFL playbook, and you realize all the information that those guys have to know offensively and defensively, like, as a receiver, I'm going to run this route if they line up in this coverage. I might have to adjust mid-route based on what they do. Defensively, we might have 2 or 3 calls in the huddle that we're going to choose a defense based on how you line up, or if you go in motion, that's going to change something else. Just all the different calls that you have to make on both sides of the ball. You have to know so much information week to week in football. So I'm going to give the nod to football, K-Walk, but certainly, again, these are all just opinions. I don't really think there's a right answer to any of this, but I'm going to give the nod to football players, because I think a lot of times football players get a bad rap for not being smart, and you can't play the game unless you have an ability to understand and process a lot of information. Good stuff, K-Walk. That was a fast but very fun first half hour. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break. When we come back, K-Walk's got some more great topics for you. We're going to talk some more NFL stuff, some more NBA stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun. Stick with us. You're listening to The Walkthrough with Kevin Walker and Jason Collins right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. We'll be right back.
And welcome back. Again, you are listening to The Walkthrough Radio Show with myself, Kevin Walker, alongside Jason Collins, right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. Before the break, during Jay's segment, if you missed it, ladies and gentlemen, we were talking Kyrie Irving, giving our thoughts and opinions on that, and will he opt in? Will he opt out? Will it be a sign and trade deal as well? Also, we put our all-time NFL team together, Jay. That was really fun, man. I really like that one. Hopefully, we can continue that for sure. And also, we talked about the sports, the toughest sport, the sport that with the most intelligence, the team and the sport with the most skills. So great stuff there, Jay, as always. Hey, Jay, I want to switch us. Let's go back a little bit. I want to talk about the NBA here, and I want to talk about the NBA free agencies, man. We have, the starts the 30th. Kyrie, we already talked about Kyrie. But Jay, let me ask you this question. We got some guys that have other guys have opt-out clauses or opt-in clauses, however you want to look at it. And we have 3 guys, and I want to ask you about these 3 guys. And who do you see opting out? Who's the most likely to opt out right now? And we got James Harden, we got Bradley Beal, and we got Russell Westbrook as well. Out of those 3 guys, who do you see opting out, or it's any of those guys? Who do you see opting in and opting out? And give me your thoughts and opinions on all 3 guys.
I feel like James Harden needs to stay right where he is, K-Walk. I don't think his value is as high as maybe he thinks it is. I think he needs to stay put in Philly. He's going to get a ton of money this year if he stays. I can't remember what the number is, but I think
47 million.
47 million. So I don't think to me, he's a player on the decline. I think you better take that 47 million and stay right where you are. Plus you're going to have a good team in Philly as well. So I think Harden stays. I've gone back and forth with Bradley Beal. Like I know on Friday night, I said I thought he would stay. Now I feel like maybe that's not the case. I feel like maybe he is going to leave. So it wouldn't surprise me at all that like in the next week or so, K-Walk, we see Bradley Beal end up somewhere else. Westbrook is interesting because I think he would like to stay, but I don't think LA is that excited about keeping him around. So I think they're going to actively try to move him and package him in some kind of deal to get him out the door. So I don't think he's going to end up being on the Lakers, but it might not be his choice.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I mean, starting with Harden, I just think that 47 million is just hard to turn around. I mean, turn away from. Especially you're not going to get that in the open market. Going in this market, because I believe the salary cap is going up 10 million for each team. But even with that going up, Jay, there's only 5 teams that are going to be over the salary. I mean, under the salary cap. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So he's definitely not going to get that money on the open market. So I believe he opts in. They give him a short-term deal, Jay. I don't think they're going to give him the max, meaning Philly. I think they can give him a short-term deal and allow this to work out, allow it to pan out, kind of like what we mentioned about Kyrie, KD, and Ben Simmons. I think if Harden stays there, they have good pieces there. We talked about Tyrese Maxey, obviously Joel Embiid, and if James Harden can come in there and do his thing. But I just think if they do that, Jay, I think they have to turn the offense over to Tyrese Maxey. Excuse me. I just think he's the up and coming star there. I think if you give him the ball more, you'll see more production from him. So I think he opts in, meaning James Harden. Now, as far as Bradley Beal, there's a lot of talk about Bradley Beal opting in and then going for that sign and trade deal. Rumors have it Miami Heat are talking, about bringing him in. I mean, there's rumors about everybody, going to Miami Heat right now, but he is one of them. He is one of those guys. So I think he opts in, and I think it turns into a sign and trade deal. I think that's how it's going to turn out for Bradley Beal. Where he goes, I mean, that remains to be seen, obviously. As far as Russell Westbrook, I think, like you stated, Jay, I have to echo exactly what you said. He wants to stay there, but I just don't think that's a good fit for them. I think he'll opt in, sign and trade. Again, I think he'll do the same thing Bradley Beal will do. And then ultimately, the Lakers will bring somebody in here, or in there, I should say, that will be complementary to AD and LeBron as well. So I think both Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook opt in, but sign and trade. And I definitely think that James Harden opts in as well. Next 3 guys I want to talk about, Jay. We got guys that are restricted free agents. Okay. So obviously they can stay with the teams. They can go out there and seek, free agency, sign a deal, but their respective teams have to match it for those who don't understand what restricted free agency means. Now, from coming out, I'm talking about Zach LaVine, Jalen Brunson, and DeAndre Ayton. Let's start with Jalen Brunson. I believe it was Princess, our producer, our CEO here on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio, put in a thread that the Knicks offered him 4 years, $100 million. Let me ask you this, Jay. Does that? I mean, obviously he'll sign. I think he'll sign that deal if that comes to fruition. If that's the case, I definitely think he'll sign it, because I don't know if he's going to get that with his current team. Do you see them matching it though, Jay?
I don't think so. Okay, well, 4 years, $100 million for Brunson, who again, Brunson's a nice player. He's a good, solid player, but he seems like a weird player for the Knicks to go all in on, right? Like, to me, he's more of a complimentary piece, somebody like that you might look at after you're going after a couple of your big fish, but he doesn't feel like a big fish to me. But the Knicks are treating this guy like, we gotta have him.
That's what they do. That's what they do.
I think his dad is going to be joining the coaching staff, or already has joined the coaching staff.
Well,
something
there
like
you
that.
Go.
So I think he's going to New York. I don't think Dallas is going to give him $100 million. Again, he's a nice player, but is he $100 million player? Like, is that the market now? For me, that's a little bit of a reach. So I think he's the easy one. I see him ending up in New York.
Yeah, I can see that too, especially if they offer that deal, if that deal becomes official. I just don't see how he turns that down, turns away. And you said that his dad's going to be on the coaching staff as well. So it's kind of like a win-win for him. And in that case, I think it's something that you say, hey, listen, maybe I belong here. Maybe this is a sign that I belong in New York. But I don't see him as that 4-year, $100 million guy either, Jay. I don't see him at all as well. Now, Zach LaVine for the Bulls. Again, for another restricted free agent, do you see him moving on? I know he's going to get some offers, Jay, but will the Bulls be able to match it, or will they match it?
I think the Bulls need to. I think they need to try to match it, right? I always say you don't want to let good talent just walk out the door. And I think you're right. I think there will be teams that could certainly use Zach LaVine, that will want his services, the athleticism that he can bring to your team.
Yes.
But I think if Chicago is really serious about trying to get back in the mix, they need to try to keep Zach LaVine. But again, like, what is the price? Because if there's a team that's willing to overpay, then you really have to look at and say, are we willing to overpay for Zach LaVine? Now that I'm not sure of, but I think the Bulls need to try to keep him. I think he makes them better.
Yeah, I agree, Jay. I think the Bulls will not only need to, but I think they will as well, because I just think that like you stated, Jay, you just don't let a talent like that just walk out the door. You have to do whatever you have to do. If you have to move some pieces when on the back end or what have you, to make that work, then I definitely think you would, because if Zach goes to someone's going to offer him, top notch. I don't know if he's going to get the max, but he's going to get a big number. And I think that the Bulls have to match that, have to be prepared for that for sure. So Zach, he's very talented, like you said, Jay. I love his mid-range game. He can hit the three as well. So it's just not a talent that you want to lose for sure. Yeah. Next guy is DeAndre Ayton, the center out of from Phoenix. This is a guy who, if on the right team, Jay, he can really, be productive for you, give you decent minutes, give you decent points, rim protector as well. Do you see him going out there getting a big deal, and will Phoenix match it?
I like DeAndre Ayton. I really like DeAndre Ayton. Yeah. I don't think Phoenix sees the value in him for some reason. Right. Like, I would have extended him last year if I was Phoenix. Right. I really would have. I don't think for whatever reason, and maybe because he's in their building, they know more about him than we do. But to me, I don't feel like they value him as much as I think his play warrants being valued. Like you said, he's an athletic big man. He's a good rim protector. He can score the ball given the opportunity to do so. He can rebound for you. He can run the floor. I don't know what there is not to like about this guy. Right. So I think there's going to be a lot of teams, K-Walk, that would want a big man like that for sure. I think he's going to get some big offers. I don't think Phoenix is going to match it. I really don't. I think they're going to let this guy walk out the door, and I think they're going to live to regret it, because look, I think their window might be closing anyway on a championship, but without Ayton, it's going to get real sticky. No Ayton and an aging Chris Paul. I think it might be over for Phoenix. So I think he's going to be on a different team when it's all said and done.
Yeah, Jay. Yeah, to steal your term, like you always use in situations of such, is like it seems like Phoenix are okay dating him, but they just don't want to marry him. That's right. That's right. and I think that it's going to be too late when somebody comes along and they steal him away. But like, oh man, I didn't appreciate him when I had him, and now he's on the other side, and now you were like, oh, so that's how I feel about that situation. Just to steal your term, But I agree, Jay. I don't think they'll match it either. I think there are a lot of other teams that are seeing the same thing that we're seeing. The value in. I'm not saying that the Phoenix Suns don't see value in him. I don't think they see enough. How much they don't appreciate him enough as far as what he can bring to the table for that particular team. And like you mentioned, this door is closing, slowly but surely, especially with an aging Chris Paul. Great stuff there. I see him going elsewhere. I don't see Phoenix matching it. Maybe he'll go to Miami again. Another guy that's linked to Miami. That's just me. I want everybody.
He would be a nice fit in Miami too, man. He would be a nice fit in Miami.
Yeah, if we get Aiden and we can get KD, sky's the limit. I'm just saying, that's my wish list. Kyrie got his wish list. I'm getting my wish list. All right, good stuff there, Jay. Look, what we're going to do here is we're going to grab our next break. When we come back, I want to switch it over to the NFL, and I want to talk the AFC South this week, guys, and also we'll get into our start bench cut, and also have some other good stuff for you, Jay, as well. And I'm gonna keep you on your toes on this one for sure. But again, ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Walkthrough Radio Show with myself, Kevin Walker, alongside Jason Collins, right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Walkthrough Radio Show with myself, Kevin Walker, alongside Jason Collins, right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. Before the break, ladies and gentlemen, again, we were talking NBA free agency, talking a little bit of James Harden, Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook as well, to name a few. Jay, again, I want to switch it over to the NFL, and I want to talk the AFC South, excuse me. And we got. It seems like to me, Jay, in my opinion, it's just one team in this particular division. But give me your thoughts and opinions on this. We got the Indianapolis Colts. You got the Houston Texans. Obviously, you got the Jaguars, and you also have who am I missing here? Why am I missing somebody here?
Titans.
The Titans. I forget the Titans. No, I did not. That's what I was missing. I'm sorry. So with that being said, Jay, who do you see? How do you see this division playing out? Is this a one-team division? Is this, in my opinion, the Colts division to lose? What say you?
At first, when I looked at this, man, I thought, like, is this the worst division in football? Like, I mean, I don't know. That's just because to me, the Texans and the Jags, like, just forget about it. I don't think we're going to get anything out of them. I think the Texans are going to be terrible. And I think the Jags, Trevor Lawrence, he's probably going to be a little bit better this year, but I just don't think the Jags are going to be ready to take that next step. To me, those teams might win 4 or 5 games. So I think the Jags and the Texans are out of it. The Titans are interesting, man, because they did make a nice playoff run last year. Tannehill, though, I don't know. Like to me, it felt like he regressed a little bit last year after building some momentum years prior. So the Titans, but then I look at the Colts, Matt Ryan, like, are you really putting all your eggs in that basket? I don't, the thing about the Colts, I think otherwise they have a good roster, right? Defensively, I think they have a good team. I think they have a good offensive roster. I'm just not sure Matt Ryan is the guy at the quarterback position that's going to take them over the hump. Like, is he really that much of an upgrade over Carson Wentz? I mean, Matt Ryan is old as the hills. So I know you said the Colts division to lose. I think I'm going to give it to the Titans, a slight edge to the Titans. Derrick Henry, that running game, Tannehill, a game manager. I'm going to give it the Titans to finish first, the Colts second, and the Jags and the Texans can fight it out for who's going to be last. It really doesn't matter. So I'm going to give a slight edge to the Titans, K-Walk.
Okay. All right. Okay. I can't argue with that. I'm glad that we can, talk about this because like you stated, this is, arguably, probably, the worst division in football, but, being that I have to do a preview every week, that they just happen to come up. They just happen to come up this week, ladies and gentlemen. So, I agree, Jay, that, I agree with as far as the Texans and the Jags go. I'm actually going to have the Jags finishing a little bit higher. I mean, higher than the Texans. I just don't know what we're going to get from the Texans. I mean, they just gutted that team. And look at these quarterbacks. I don't even know these guys' names, man. To be honest with you, I'm like, who is their quarterback? I look up their starting quarterback. I think it's Mills. I think it is, and then their backup. I'm like, okay, I just don't see this going anywhere this year. It's going to be one of those things where they're in the rebuilding mode. As far as the Jags, I think they'll get a little bit better. I think you got another year with Trevor Lawrence. They brought in, I don't know what the world they were thinking about signing Christian Kirk to that huge deal. That set the market. Now that's hurting the 49ers and Debo's negotiation, but that's a story for another day. But then, you got the Titans there, Jay. You still got Tannehill there. You still got Derrick Henry, and you still got that defense, who I think, which is pretty decent. I just think that the Colts. I just think that the Colts team, they upgrade. I know Matt Ryan is getting up there in age, getting long in the tooth, if you will. But I think he is an upgrade from Carson Wentz last year. And I think Carson Wentz was the reason why they did not go to the playoffs. He had to win that game against the Jaguars, that last game of the season. And he just pooped the bed, if you will, Jay. I just don't know what's wrong with that guy. I mean, some days he can look great. And some days he just looks like he just has no idea. Looks like a deer in the headlights. But I think Matty Ice is an upgrade there. And I think this is a playoff team. They have a really good defense led by Leonard, the middle linebacker there, and DeForest Buckner and the defensive line. And then you got Taylor who run the ball. You know, he had this great season that he had last year. They upgraded at the receiver position, you know, with Pittman there, Alec Pierce, and Paris Campbell. So I think I'm just going to give the slight edge to the Colts here. I just think that's their division, but obviously it's up to Matty Ice to get that thing done with any quarterback. It's up to any quarterback in the quarterback play.
Yeah.
If you want to be successful. But I think Matty Ice will be slightly better than Carson Wentz was last year, and then ultimately get them in the playoffs. I'm not saying I don't know how far they're going to go, but winning this division will get them in the playoffs, obviously. So that's why I picked.
Yeah, you know what, K-Walk, that's a good point. And I think what's going to help Matty Ice is that he's going to have a better offensive line than he had in Atlanta. So he's not going to constantly be under pressure. So if he can get some time to kind of stand and deliver the ball, you're right. I think that could be a good thing for the Colts.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to seeing what Matty Ice does. I don't know why. I just always like Matty Ice. I don't know why I liked him, but he just seems like, you know, just that guy that's just overdue. I mean, I know they got close in the Super Bowl. We all know about the 28-3, but you know, I don't think he's going to get any closer than that. So, but I do like his game though, for sure. And I think this is a really good fit for him. I don't think they'd have to put too much pressure on him. Just let Frank Reich call that offense and let Matty Ice and that offense do their thing, for sure. All right, Jay. Let's talk some more NFL here, and I want to talk about. I have it here in my notes here as soon as I locate it here. Let me talk about your Cowboys real quick, Jay. I want to talk about, actually, before we do that, I wanted to do this earlier and I forgot. I just want to give a shout out to Tony Siragusa, Jay. Big man from the Baltimore Ravens, passed away at the age of 55. Young there, Jay, for anyone, not just a football player, but for anyone being 55. The cause of death has not been released yet. If it has been, I haven't seen it. But Jay, I don't know how much you remember Tony Siragusa, but, you know, he was a big force with that Baltimore Ravens team, won the Super Bowl with them. Just a great guy, man. It's so funny guy. Off the field. I remember watching, I think it was the very first Hard Knocks, if not one of the first ones, when he locked the tight ends in that trailer when they were having their tight end meeting. That was hilarious, man. And then I remember when he first signed his signing bonus, they gave him $1,000. And he drank it away, meaning like he drank it away, like literally drank his entire signing bonus away. Just the type of guy that he was, but just a funny guy, man. But give me your thoughts and opinions on this, what it means to not only the Baltimore Ravens family, but for the NFL as well.
Yeah, man. Like you said, it's sad, man. 55 years old, way too young. And it's tough anytime you lose a football player. But like you said, by all accounts, this was a great guy, man. Everyone that you hear talk about him just talks about how fun-loving he was, how much he loved to enjoy life. I think he lost his father when his father was in his 40s as well. I read a story about that he lost his father in his 40s. And kind of from that moment on, he was like, I'm going to enjoy every single day of my life. So that in a way, that kind of propelled him to say, I'm going to get the most out of every day. And when you listen to people talk about him, you hear the stories, it looks like that's what he did. So just another big loss for the NFL, man. Over the last couple of weeks, we've lost a lot of athletes, man. So just another sad loss. Just 55 years old, way too young. I know he's got some kids as well. So just a sad loss all the way around.
Yeah, for sure, man. And then I wanted to do that at the beginning of the show, but I apologize. But nonetheless, at least we're getting it in now. But yeah, Jay, I mean, it's another sad loss for the NFL family. Thoughts and prayers goes out to his family for sure, his wife and kids, his extended family as well. So I know it's going to be tough. Like, when you hear some of these guys like a Ray Lewis, you're going to hear, them talk about him. Shannon Sharp, you mentioned him earlier. They seem like they had a great chemistry, watching that hard knocks special. It just seems like that particular team was a very special team. They was very close, like the jokes that we were talking about. So just another tough loss there. But again, thoughts and prayers to the Saragusa family for sure. All right, Jay. Got a couple minutes here, man, and I just want to, before we get into my start bench cut here, and I want to ask you real quick about your Dallas Cowboys, and I have to ask you this, okay? I think I presented this on Wednesday night to E. Scott on Sports Talk with K. Walker and E. Scott. But I have to ask you this, Jay. What's the season mean right now for the Cowboys? You pledge your allegiance to the Cowboys this season. All right, you're saying they're Super Bowl bound. They're Super Bowl bound. They're going to be Super Bowl champs. Let me ask you this: What do they have to? Do they really have to win a Super Bowl before Jerry Jones? Because there are rumors out there that Jerry Jones is ready to dismantle this thing, meaning getting rid of McCarthy there and some other pieces as well. And then you got Sean Payton out there who is available. So what say you about the Cowboys? What do they have to do in order for everything to stay intact?
This is going to sound a little weird, K-Walk, but I almost think it would be better for Jerry Jones to get rid of Mike McCarthy. I really do, because my criticism of McCarthy is I think he's an okay coach, but okay isn't going to win you like the close playoff game where you really need the coach to make a great decision, or if you end up in a Super Bowl and you've got to think your way through some stuff or manage the clock. I don't see McCarthy getting that done. I'm just going to be flat out honest. I'd much rather see Sean Payton on the sideline. Yeah. Like if I was Jerry Jones, I would do it right now. I would do it right now. I would get McCarthy out of there. I would bring Sean Payton in right now and let him take over. I know that's not going to happen. K-Walk, I don't know that they even need to win the Super Bowl this year, but they need to make a deep playoff run to just get people off their back, right? Only one team is going to win the Super Bowl this year. If the Cowboys don't win it, okay. But you can't lose in the first round, or you can't not make the playoffs because it's going to be the same story. But if they could find a way to like the NFC Championship game, or if they could find a way to the Super Bowl and maybe they don't win it, I think that would calm people down a little bit. But people want to see them win a playoff game, and they just keep coming up short year after year after year. I think they have a talented roster, K-Walk, but the coach is what makes me nervous as a new Cowboys fan.
Yeah, and you said that last year too, and you weren't even a Cowboy fan. You said Mike McCarthy was a horrible game manager as far as the time clock goes. He just used some timeouts when he wasn't supposed to, and didn't use timeouts when he was supposed to. So I guess that's consistent with you. You're not a Mike McCarthy guy, so that's safe to say. Now, Jay, I have to agree with you, man. I think they have to win the division, and they have to get into a deep playoff run, whether it be getting into the NFC Championship or at least the divisional round, man, for sure. Or if they're not a wild card, well, that can't be. It all depends on how how it works out. But they definitely have to win at least one playoff game for sure, Jay. And depending on how that second playoff game goes, will determine whether Jimmy wants to break this up or not. But I think he ultimately will, man. I think we'll see Peyton on the sideline of the Cowboys in 2023 for sure. All right, Jay. We got up to against the clock right here, and I want to talk about the start bench cut. I got a little bit here for you. Kind of switched it up just a little bit. We kind of talked about these guys here. We talked about these guys earlier. So we got we're gonna start with James Harden, Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook. Start bench cut.
Ooh, I'm gonna start Bradley Beal. Okay. I think at this point in their careers, he's got the most left. So I'm going to start Bradley Beal. I don't like Harden or Westbrook's game. It just doesn't appeal to me, but I would bench Harden. I think he's probably got a little bit more left in the tank than Westbrook, and he shoots the ball better than Westbrook. I'm going to cut Russ. Something you mentioned the other day, his stubbornness, his unwillingness to change, his unwillingness to adapt. I'm going to have to cut Westbrook.
All right, good stuff. I'm gonna have to agree with you on that one. I'm gonna make it unanimous with that one, Jay, for sure. The next one we got We got the I kind of implemented this because I wanted to talk about it last week, but I didn't clarify how I wanted it. But this is a start bench cut nonetheless. So we got quarterback and wide receiver combos. You start bench cut. We got Russell Wilson and Jerry Jeudy.
Yep.
We got Derek Carr, Devontae Adams, and we got Matt Stafford and Allen Robinson. Start bench cut.
All right. To be consistent with my notes here, I got to start Derek Carr and Devontae Adams because I think that's going to be a lethal combination, K-Walk. And then I'm going to bench Russ and Jerry Jeudy. I love Russ.
Okay.
I think Jeudy is super talented. So I would bench those guys. And then who was it? Stafford and who was your last combo?
Allen Robinson.
Yeah, Stafford and Allen Robinson. For me, they're the odd couple out on this one. So I'd have to cut them.
Again, I'm gonna make it unanimous as well. I'm not going to get into why because of time restraints. But last one, Jay, last one. Okay, here we go. We got this is 2-on-2 or not 2-on-2. This is a combo, duos. We got Shaq and Kobe. We got Magic and the Captain, and then we got MJ and the Dream. The reason why I matched MJ up with the Dream is because MJ did not have a legitimate big man when he played. So again, MJ the Dream, Magic the Captain, and Kobe and Shaq. Start bench cut.
K-Walk, man, that's rough. We might have to bring this back on the shoot around to see what Brittany would say for this one. I have to start MJ and the Dream because I was watching something last night where some people were making the case that the Dream was the best center. They were going over all these reasons why. Yes. I don't know that I agree with it, but it was a good case. So I'm going MJ and the Dream to start. I got to bench Magic and Kareem, man, because I think as great as they both are, they're both underrated in some people's eyes. They're underrated. Right. So I'm benching Magic and Kareem. It's crazy to cut Kobe and Shaq. Like, how do you cut Kobe and Shaq? But in this case, I got to do it, K-Walk. They're the odd team out.
Again, Jay, we're thinking alike. I'm doing the same thing, man. I'm going MJ the Dream. I'm benching Magic and the Captain. And as hard as it is to say, and it sounds, I got to cut Kobe and Shaq. So, I definitely agree with that one there, Jay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time we have. That's all the time that we have. I always like to leave you guys with something. This week, I want to leave you with this. Before anything else, preparation is the key to success. For myself, Kevin Walker, alongside Jason Collins and the Walkthrough Radio Show, God willing, we'll talk to you next week.